Welcome to everyone who welcomes us here in this holy place. This is a place where you see the saints all around us. The presence of the saints are here to truly inspire us to greatness. St. Joseph Borrello, he began by quoting our Holy Founder, that we need to follow step by step without discouragement towards heaven, to that holiness of life to which everything here speaks. Taking an inspiration from the Gospel passage that speaks to us of the wedding feast of Cana. We, on this feast dedicated to Our Lady of Lourdes, draw inspiration from her holiness as she appeared and spoke to Bernadette at Lourdes. The message that she brings is a message of holiness, to conform our lives to Christ, to do so by penance, to do so by prayer, placing the Eucharist at the center of our lives. Is this not really the whole message of the gospel that we just heard, where Mary turns to those around her and says, do whatever he tells you to do? This gospel passage shows us how, in fact, Mary places Jesus at the center of her life. And while the passage itself does not actually say it, what follows is that afterwards Jesus and his disciples with Mary leave Cana, return to Capharnaum, and they form the very first Christian community, all gathered around Jesus, attentive to listening to his words. Our bishop also led us to reflect with St. Joseph Borrello on Mary. Quoting St. Joseph Borrello reminds us that we need to reflect Mary. We need to study her virtues. Just as when we are able to study a beautiful picture and feel touched and inspired by it, so we must also be touched and inspired by the vision that we have of Mary. Bishop also went on to speak about three characteristics of St. Joseph Borrello as a bishop, appropriate here as we visit his diocese, help for our own lives as we pursue holiness. First is zeal, and he remembered that St. Joseph Borrello, in the brief time that he was bishop here, managed to visit nearly every parish of this diocese, no matter how difficult it was to get there, much more difficult in his day than in ours. And his pastoral letters, which we have continued to read, show us the fervor with which he preached the gospel to his people. The bishop also related the story of how in the seminary there is still a crucifix placed there by St. Joseph Borrello, crucifix before which he prayed, and in whose pierced side Bishop Borrello placed little pieces of paper with his prayer intentions. A cross that, as the bishop reminded us, one of us tried to carry away, but they didn't let us. However, it is a reminder of the very fact that this cross and suffering are a part of our lives. They are a part of the way of holiness. And that for us who are bishops and priests, this cross and suffering is not only ours, but also involves the carrying of the cross and the sufferings of others. And since the bishop noticed that our chapter is focused on poverty, he asked whether or not this bearing of the crosses of others that are part of our pastoral life, would not that also be one of the ways that we live the spirit of poverty. Finally, he also spoke of the communion, which is the source of charity. Borrello, when he came to this diocese, found the diocese divided, clergy divided against itself, and by his own presence, by his own love, by his own work, brought unity and communion to all who are here, a pattern of holy living. Our bishop also wanted to conclude by quoting St. Joseph Borrello's words on our patron, St. Joseph, a famous phrase about he, Joseph, who was the first to embrace the divine child, is also going to help us and inspire us to follow his example, for in our ministry we too seek to embrace the divine child, the intimacy with the divine